Hi, I'm Chris Boden. I'm the Senior Advisor at the Education, Welfare and Safeguarding team at One Education. It's that time of year again when we're looking at the Keeping Children Safe in Education document and the updates that have been made. The new document came into force from yesterday, the 1st of September, and it is applicable to all schools, academies, and now also to providers of post-16 education, as set out in the Education and Training Welfare of Children Act 2021. In June, Ofsted published their review of sexual abuse in schools and colleges, and this, of course, has heavily influenced some of the updates, and it will feed into the wider changes. There is now a condensed version of the part 1 of Keeping Children Safe. This gives governors the decision as to whether staff who are not face-to-face working daily with children and young people, the choice of looking and reading and understanding the condensed version, or looking, reading and understanding the main part 1. We've had discussions in our departments about whether or not our staff should be looking at condensed versions or full versions, whether non-face-to-face staff that aren't seeing children in school daily, if they indeed need introduction to safeguarding training. What we've decided is, yes, they do. They need to know as much about safeguarding children as the rest of us. If we've got a finance officer who's got a meeting with a member of school staff, and that meeting has to be cancelled and it's because of a serious safeguarding issue, then at least that finance officer will understand why that meeting's had to be cancelled and want to support the staff that are working in the schools. It's a big decision to make, and it's one for governors to ponder. The condensed part is 5 pages. The main part is 17 pages. I do think for the sake of 12 pages, you should read it all. So the changes, what will they mean? What will they mean to us that are working in school, to you that are working out there in school? There is now a statement in the guidance that says all staff should be able to improve children's welfare. Heck of a statement. Induction training, when you've got new staff starting, they should all have safeguarding training, and that should include online safety. We'll talk a bit more about online safety in a moment. Your child protection policies, they should include your procedures around dealing with peer-on-peer abuse. Your behaviour policy, that should include measures to prevent bullying, including cyberbullying, the online bullying, and also prejudice-based and discriminatory bullying. Together, these contribute to the bigger picture of changes in relation to sexual violence and sexual harassment. The detail is much clearer. Incidents of sexual violence and sexual harassment must be taken seriously. Paragraph 18 in the guidance states, all staff should be able to reassure victims that they are being taken seriously, and that they will be taken seriously, and that they will be supported and kept safe. That's a huge statement, but that's what we have to do. Too many times it's been dismissed when children have made allegations. We have to take them seriously. It can't be any stronger than that. And these expectations will need to be communicated to your staff. How will you do that? The Ofsted report suggests training and information sessions, and following their findings, it was quite shocking to find that some staff did not recognise sexual harassment and still thought of it as banter and part of growing up. We need to be looking at the training that we're offering to our staff and our colleagues and the people we work with. We all need to understand that sexual harassment means this, that we deal with it this way, that we record it that way. There's no grey areas around this. We've got to get it right. We've got to prevent the sexual harassment and abuse of children and young people. Safeguarding and child protection policies, they'll need to be updated to reflect your whole school approach. Given the many different guises that peer-on-peer abuse takes. All that needs to be taken into account when you are updating your policy. Schools need a safeguarding culture, not just a number of policies that we'll look at this today and we'll follow that tomorrow. We need the whole safeguarding culture. It should start the minute a child walks in the school. It should start the minute a member of staff walks in that school. Your systems, your processes and your policies, they should mirror your safeguarding culture. At the end of the day, it's about the best interests of the child in your care. Online safety. Paragraph 24 says that all staff should be aware that technology is a significant component in many safeguarding and wellbeing issues. Children are at risk of abuse online as well as face-to-face. I think we're more and more aware now of the damage that can be done online. Those phones, those tablets, those laptops, they can be the enemy for so many young children and young people. We know what is legal and what is illegal, but often that is dependent on age. Are we sure we know what that means? We may need different responses depending on the age of a child or a young person. And with our policies, we should ensure that the online safety is an interrelated theme. Again, it's about that culture throughout your school. So when you're teaching IT or when you're teaching maths or English, it can still be incorporated in that. So your maths, your English, your science teachers, they need to be aware about the safeguarding culture as well. It cannot just be left to one person. Exploitation. Additional information has been added again around exploitation. It makes it clear that experiences of girls being criminally exploited can vary very differently to that of boys, and that child sexual exploitation is a form of sexual abuse. Paragraph 63 says that both CSE and CCE are forms of abuse that occur when an individual or group takes advantage of an imbalance in power to coerce, manipulate, or deceive a child into taking part in sexual or criminal activity. Again, we may not have heard about this in the detail that we do a few years ago, but now as more and more perpetrators are coming to trial and we're finding out more of how they work and how they operate, and the young people that have been affected are able to give their accounts, we're learning more of how to spot this, how to deal with it, how to help again those young people and children that are in our care. Record keeping. It's at the heart of everything we do. It has to be at the heart of everything we do. It's it's about additional info that has been added in the Keeping Children Safe documents. My experience is that schools are pretty good at record keeping. What perhaps we need to do more of is more QAing, more making sure that what we're writing is absolutely accurate, relevant, and has been done in a timely manner. It's got to be fit for purpose. When you first write down something pertaining to a safeguarding case, that could be the first incident in a criminal conviction. So we've got to get it right. So part one of safeguarding information for all staff. Again, we'll be looking, it looks at the preventing the impairment of children's mental and physical health and development. Last year, we were asked to take into consideration a child's mental as well as physical health and development. We can only build on that. Mental health is an indicator of abuse. After the pandemic, the COVID, the lockdowns that we've had, we know that children's mental health is rising. The incidence of children suffering from mental health because of all what's gone on, it is bad enough, but given sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse into that, it just escalates even more. The extra familial harms outside of the families. Again, COVID and the pandemic has had a lot to do with that. There's lots of links to useful guidance in part 1. If you're reading it online, it couldn't be easier. Click on those blue words and it takes you to something else. It's nice if you've got the time to do that, but if you just need something for a quick reference, check the links if you haven't got time to read through the whole section again and you're looking for something specific. It's a good working document. It's what I call my Bible. It's always in the bottom of my bag. Maybe once or twice a term, I might have to renew that paper copy or update my tablet or my phone to make sure my links are still working. Part 2 in keeping children safe is about the management of safeguarding. There's a new section on whole school approach. We talked about the culture, the safeguarding culture in a school. Your whole school approach is about making sure that everyone that works in your school that comes into contact with the children or doesn't come into contact with the children, they know what your school approach is to safeguarding. Your policies should be accessible. They should be working documents. Information sharing, it's vital to tackling all forms of abuse and neglect. Don't let GDPR put you off. We know how GDPR works. We're getting much smarter about what information we share, how we share it and when we share it, but don't ever let it stop you sharing information. Safeguarding, in my eyes, gazumps everything. If in doubt, share that information. The voice of the child, most important. We have to listen to the children. We have to let them know that we're supporting them, that they will be believed. We have to know how they would like to proceed. We can't make all the decisions without involving them and having their opinion. Online safety, we've talked quite a bit about that. It can be a full-time job in itself. Your school's approach to your online safety should be reflected in your child protection policy. You might have an online safety policy, but is that reflected in your child protection policy? Again, it's that whole school approach, your culture, they need to marry up. How we manage the use of mobile phones in schools, that can vary. Some schools have a ban on mobile phones from staff, for visitors, for pupils. How would you cope with a total ban on mobile phones? But because of online safety and things that we know, phones are often at the core of some of the abuse that has gone on in schools and other education establishments. You have to think about what's best for you and best for your school. There's a one-page stop for teachers now that has been put in part 2 of the management. And this has been produced and it's on gov.uk, and it includes modules on the RHSE topics and non-statutory implementation guidance. It's a good thing, again, to look at. Don't flick through it when you're reading your part 1 to say you've read and understood it. Have a look at these links, have a look at what's available to you. It might make, for some of you, those that don't understand it all, it might make it a bit clearer because you'll see where one thing fits in with another. Peer-on-peer and child-on-child abuse. We've talked about that quite a lot. There were little or no changes last year in part 5. And last year's updates, you know, they were more or less the same as the part 5 that was introduced a couple of years ago. When it was introduced, it gave us a clear idea and clear reasoning for why we should be looking more closely at peer-on-peer. Again, the Ofsted review, the sexual harassment, that again has brought it into the spotlight. So we need to go back in and look in again at how you respond to allegations, how you deal with victims and perpetrators. Elective home education. There's a new paragraph outlining the expectations of EHE. It is the choice of the parent to elect to home educate their children. And again, following the pandemic and the numerous lockdowns and the time that children have stayed at home, more parents are electing to educate their children. The school can't stop them. It is a parent's right. But the school, if they have concerns, there's processes you can go through. You can have meetings, you can get other agencies involved to speak to the parents and make sure that they are doing the right thing for their child. All the parents have to do is put their intentions in writing to the school to trigger this process. There's not a lot the school can do if the parent is adamant that that's the route they're going to take. They think that's the best for their child. But the local authorities do have obligations to ensure it is the right choice for the child. So talk to your local authorities as well and make sure that everyone's doing the best thing for that child. And thinking about the voice of the child, ask the child if that's what they want as well. The DFE have published advice and guidance on preventing and tackling bullying, mental health and behaviour in schools. Well-being and resilience are words that we're hearing bandied about and used, quite rightly so, much more again in the last 12-18 months. Training needs to be widely available for your staff, for yourselves, so that you can access resources and see what it needs for you to ensure that the children, their mental health is being addressed, their incidents of bullying, their behaviour, that you're coping with them and dealing with them and addressing them in the very best way that you can. Part 3 and part 4 of Keeping Children Safe is around your staff recruitment and managing allegations. My colleagues from our HR team, they will be adding to the briefing around this, as they are the experts in this field. Part 5, we've talked quite a lot about child-on-child sex violence and sexual harassment. We're reminded that when we're looking at part 5, we should be also looking and understanding this other document, Sexual Violence and Sexual Harassment Between Children in Schools and Colleges. This has been updated for September 2021. There's new paragraphs in part 5 and the information which will help us respond to reports that we receive. Ultimately, children should be confident in reporting abuse. We need to take the reports from them seriously. Again, going back to our effective policies and procedures, we should have effective policies, training and planning. And this will ensure that our responses are accurate. We need to have zero tolerance when it comes to sexual abuse, sexual harassment, any types of abuse. Even when there are false allegations, we need to look at how we support the child making them. There's a new section on this in part 5. Working with victims and perpetrators, it's extremely challenging. It might not be that one person does both. It might be a way that you choose to work in your school, but it's worth looking at how you do that, what staff need to be involved. There is support out there for you. The work in schools that we do, it tells us where we can go for help. I said we can just click on the links, use it. The annexes that follow part 5, A to D, they've got even more information, even more links. It gives you quite graphic details about how you can identify abuse, how you can deal with it, how you can stop it. We all need to play our parts. This document will help us. I think it's a good document. I've said I use it a lot. Obviously, there's great emphasis on sexual harassment. The Ofsted review, has caused that, and it is welcomed. Hopefully, it'll ensure that schools are doing everything possible to further safeguard our children and young people. I'm looking forward to our new year in school and the challenges ahead. What do we need to do? We need to plan. We need to put those plans into action, and we need to review that our plans and our actions are working. Update your policies, use your policies. They should be a working document. Your procedures, if they're not working, if you need more than one member of staff, change it, change your procedures. Inform staff. Initially, they'll be reading part one, whether it be the full one or the condensed one. Training, information, reviews need to be happening all the time. If there's the slightest change in any policy, let your staff know. Put it in your bulletin, mention it in your staff briefings, send an email out. Do something like this. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's a quick way of getting messages across, and you can put your feelings behind that as well. Judge the impact of what you're doing. If it's not working, change it. Ask the people you're working with. Ask the children you're working with. What do they think? Did that work for you? Is it okay that we've gone down this route? Is it okay that I sat with you when that's been reported? Ask them what they feel. It might change the way you work going forward. It might change the support you give. It might change the amount of young people and children that are being abused. We're here to support you. One Education, we've got our website, we're on social media. Please take notice of what we're putting out. We put a lot of detail into it, a lot of time. We want to be communicating with you. Check out our website, or if not, just get in touch with us direct. We've just put together a training webinar around sexual harassment. That will be out next week. Please look out for the links for it, or again, contact me direct for more information. Thank you for listening. Bye.